Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the day before the first day of class. We as faculty, we're always, excited as well as nervous and sometimes just really overwhelmed with those first few days before classes start because we want everything to be in place. We want to make sure that the environment is as conducive to learning as possible for the student. So it can be a little bit overwhelming, and I'm very familiar with that. But what I wanted to provide today is just a few beginning of the semester tips. Most will probably be reminders, some maybe some things that you've never kind of really thought about before, and just a little quick engagement with you before you start that venture tomorrow on Wednesday with your students. So let's just go ahead and just kind of dive right in. The purpose of this is to, first of all, spotlight the importance of um, how important it is, if that makes sense, to make sure that we utilize, the first day of class as well as the first week of class to really set the tone for our students for what they will be engaged in for the entire semester. We as faculty know how important it is to do that because the tone that's set on that first day is what students will expect, the least amount that they will expect going forward for the semester. So let's just look at, this is probably what a lot of us look like right now, the day before class, classes start tomorrow. Okay, what's going to happen now? And even more so, students are like this. They don't know what to expect. They haven't taken your class before. Maybe you're one of those notorious professors where they say, oh my gosh, the class is so hard. You really got to, kind of get your game going. So students also have a bit of nervousness right before they start classes. And it is at that point that we can kind of catch their attention. And that attention can be caught either in a positive way or it can be caught in a negative way. So we want to talk about some of those positive ways that we can catch that first day, that first week of attention, making sure that we give as much clarity as possible for all of the housekeeping that is associated with our courses, as well as those expectations and events that will be taking place in our courses, just so that we know that we are on the same playing field with students and they understand, and there is room and time for questions just in case they don't. So we'll look at, once again, that value of the first day of class and how you choose to spend that. Also talking about the first week of class, because most classes either meet twice a week if it's in person or 3 days a week. If you're teaching online, even though it's online and maybe it's asynchronous where you don't actually have interaction via Zoom or Google Meet, but you can still have engagement that is on a face-to-face accounting, even if it is a recording. So we'll talk about that as well. So this first day of class, what are some things that we want to remind ourselves of as we go onto this journey tomorrow? Talking about setting the tone. What that means is that when students come into that class tomorrow, when they leave out, there should only be a few, if not any, questions that they really have that they haven't had the opportunity to ask about for that course. There should be an interaction with the syllabus housekeeping, and a lot of that nowadays is eliminated because the students have the syllabus that will be posted on Canvas. We don't want to insult anybody because everyone should be able to read the syllabus, but we do want to only highlight those things from the syllabus that we think are of the utmost importance. And we can talk about some of those as we go through this presentation, making sure that students understand what the expectations are of that course. Not in a way where we're trying to create an environment of fear, but we do want one that is real. right? It's a very valid situation. It's not being sugarcoated, but it is being presented in a way that will be digestible to students. And then, of course, discussing those required materials, which are the bare minimums, right, for students being successful in that class. The second part talks a little bit about introducing tools to students that can actually help them achieve those goals that they want to attain in that course. You know, we as faculty, and I put my hands up for this as well. Sometimes, you know, we're really, really good at telling students what it is that they need to do, right? We get that out, we put it out, we lay it out, but it's not often that we give students the actual tools or show them how to use those tools to be successful in our courses. You know, we are all as faculty really kind of amazing in our own way, right? We are those superheroes of our discipline, and we know this information backwards and forwards. We know how we would like for students to be able to take in the information that we give them and use it so that they can be successful. So this is an individualized part of these reminders. No one can tell a student better than you how and what to do to be successful in your course. So it could be as simple as, you know, some faculty members, you know, they teach directly from the book or from their gathered material, and there's nothing else outside of that perimeter. You need to make sure you know the information that is in this book or that's in this group of material. That's helpful for a student to know if what they have to kind of concentrate on is just this body of material. But if I say that you are going to be responsible for the information in the book, as well as all of those virtual supplements that are up on Canvas for you as well. So that means you're going to be tested from this place, and this place. That's information that students need to know up front on the very first day. So that comes in not only with tools, but also for the expectations of the course. Unfortunately, this presentation does not include the full gamut of metacognition, but that's coming soon, very soon, hopefully next week. Want to give you time to kind of get going with classes this week. But metacognition is definitely one of those tools, I'm telling you, that can be such a game changer, not just for students, but also for faculty. And one of the things that I love is that there is so much flexibility in this particular tool. There's a lot of individuality. You know, no two professors will probably venture into metacognition the same, but there are some basic concepts that that we like to introduce to students and to give them tangible in their hands on the very first day that they can actually start using. So please look forward to that workshop coming up very, very soon. The second one has to do with individualized course tools. And like I said, that could be, you know, if we're talking about an English course, maybe there are 2 books or there are 3 books that you're going to have to make sure that not only that you read, that you understand, that you're able to converse with others about, that maybe you'll have to develop your own little pull-out version, whatever the case may be. Whatever it is about your course that students absolutely need to be aware of, you know, that it's specific for your course and the way you like to conduct business in your classroom. And so those individualized course tools are very, very important. You know, it's almost like dealing with unspoken rules. And I'll be the first one to say, this is the part of my first day that I really love talking to students about, because my tool and my things are associated around metacognition. So I no longer use the first day of class as the syllabus day. You know, a lot of professors have kind of gotten away from using, you know, 50 minutes, in some cases an hour and 10 minutes to go through and read the syllabus to students. So this is your opportunity to kind of come up with some other things that you can actually start to present and introduce and engage students with on the very first day of class. A lot of times, I know myself, I will bring in former students that did very well in the class. I have also brought in students that did not do well in the class, that maybe took it a second time, and talked to students about how they cannot fall into that trap, right? And what they need to do to make sure that they're successful the first time around. I will have to say that this is a very powerful tool to actually have one of their peers addressing them on the first day. And with things being the way that they are in the world nowadays, you know, if you can't get a student that's on campus to actually come in and address the students in person, they could always record their responses, and you could show that to the class on the first day and use maybe 5 or 10 minutes to have a conversation about it. So these are just some suggestions, you know, maybe reminders for those of you that want to kind of shake things up and do things a little differently on that first day of class, because it definitely does set the tone for the entire semester. And here we go again with this computer. All right. So when I say setting the tone for the semester on the first day, we want this tone to be a positive tone. We want it to be realistic, of course, but we want it to be a positive tone. And this is just an example of one way that I have been using the first day of class, that first literally 3 to 5 minutes of class, that has just made a tremendous difference with students. I am more than sure that each of you have your own little, you know, first day magic that you use. And I look forward to hearing that. And I look forward to us being able to share it with the rest of your colleagues. This one slide I use on the first day for any course that I teach. Doesn't matter. It could be a higher level biology course, or it could be biology for non-majors, people that really don't care a whole lot about science. I use it on the first day virtually as well in my introduction video. It is the first thing that all students, all of my students see. And this is what it looks like. The first thing that pops up on the slide says, every student reading this slide is smart. So when they come into the classroom, this is already up. I'm usually not in there. I'll usually slide in about 1 to 2 minutes before on that first day. Give them time to just look at this slide, wonder what it's all about. You know, this is supposed to be, you know, math, or this is supposed to be, why is this slide up? And so I come in. Even before introductions, I say, I need everyone sitting, you know, to just engage me for a second. I want us all to read this statement twice. Okay, on my count, here we go. Every student reading this slide is smart. Again, every student reading this slide is smart. And then I follow up with a quick question. I say, do you believe that? And you see students kind of looking at each other. Some people say yes, some say no, some like, I don't know, you know, and those are kind of the mix that you'll usually get. But what's happening here is that now, for the first time, for some students, this is the first time they have ever been told that they are smart. So at that moment, you already have engagement from students. There are going to be a large number of them that are engaged at this point. First of all, it's starting off on a positive note, and they're more likely going to want to know more of what's coming, because we're already on a positive note. Nobody's ever told me that I was smart before in my entire life. You know, I've never had a professor tell me that I was smart. So this is definitely an engagement piece for that first day of class. And then I follow up with this. I say, well, you know what? You haven't heard that before. You've heard it today. Dr. Gray is telling you that you are smart, and that will never be up for debate again. I'll make it clear, this is no longer debatable. You're smart. But what is up for debate is your learning behavior, because this is what makes the difference, that learning behavior, and then this is the opportunity. If you're teaching a freshman class, you can say, hey, transitioning from high school to college is really, really different. And the way that you entertain material in high school and those learning behaviors that you had in high school that are usually kind of propped up by a lot of crutches, things like study guides and things like that, that behavior is going to have to be tweaked. It may need to have pieces that are deleted and then some added. It may be that you have to wipe the whole thing clean and start over, but there are definitely going to be some changes in your learning behavior. So that's my spiel, right? And I usually use metacognition to kind of come right in behind that. And like I said, this presentation does not go into the dynamics of metacognition, but trust me, that workshop is coming and you will have plenty of time, if you so choose, to use some of those strategies to present to your students on the first day. All right, so then I hit them with, it's time for a quiz. And so then at this point, everybody's looking like, what is going on? So, but everything that I'm doing is very methodical. There's a reason for it. It's setting that tone on the first day. So what I will do is I'll say, okay, well, I'll give instructions. I'll say, I'm going to put up a phrase and you're going to have exactly 5 seconds to unscramble that. And a lot of times I will have like some goodies to give away or whatever the case may be, just to kind of keep them engaged. And I'll put up the first phrase. I'll say, I'm going to give you 5 seconds, and then you'll have another phrase, and then you'll have another one. You'll have 5 seconds for each one. Once, if you know what the phrase says, then raise your hand. So this is an indicator to try to see who is actually being engaged and who's in the thought process of the moment. Okay. So this is the phrase, and I'll say, okay, you have 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll put up the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll put up the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I come right in with questions. I'll say, when did you know what the sentence said? And normally you can use some type of an app where this actually gives students the opportunity to use their cell phone, something like Kahoot, or maybe it is BuzzIn or QuizIn, where they can actually put in a code and then be able to, you could see the anonymous responses on the screen, or you could just simply say old school. How many of you got it on the first try? Not everybody will be willing to share. How many of you got it on the second try? And then how many didn't get it until you actually saw what the sentence? And so there will be conversation already initiated in the classroom on this first day. This is usually a very good segue into something called learn helplessness, which is something that we want to discourage students from on that very first day of class. This will not exist in Dr. Gray's class. I won't allow it to exist. Every time I see it being demonstrated, I'm going to cut it down like it's a weed in my garden. And I explain to them what that is. Learned helplessness is when you literally don't have any motivation to attempt a task because of prior experience, right? Prior experience, or, times you've tried before and it didn't work, or maybe when you went through high school, you never really kind of got to the point where you could make A's and B's. Maybe you were just, maybe you tried to succeed in math and that didn't work. And you just said, I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep going and not worry about it, not even try anymore. That is called learned helplessness. And so when this is explained to students, and we talk a little bit about these pictures that you see here at the bottom, right? How the puppy, if he wanted to at any time, he could knock those Pringles cans down and keep going. But because he has been in this position where he couldn't get out before, and then that boundary was replaced with these Pringles cans, he thinks he still has to stay there, not knowing that all it takes is just a few steps forward and he's out. The same thing with the horse on the right. So explaining this to students and letting them understand that I want you to be your absolute best at all times. And at the bare minimum, I need you to at least try. Just try. Put forth some effort and try. I'm telling you from experience, this has been also a huge game changer for me with students on that first day. Introducing positivity, encouraging students to do their best, letting them know up front that we're not going to talk about, how smart you are anymore, because that's not debatable. And we're going to put forth effort and try at the bare minimums, effort and trying for this course. So these, like I said, these are just all suggestions. These are things that I have done in the past and that I have been doing for several years that have actually made a difference on that first day of class. Now, we get to the part that's a little more individualized. As I said before, everyone listening to this, you guys are superstars in your own right, in your own disciplines, and nobody can teach your course better than you, right? Nobody can do you better than you, and nobody else can tell anyone else about your course better than you. So on that first day, talking to students about, your individual little niches and natches for your courses. I know for me, there are several, and we talk about those on the first day. If you want to be successful in this class, then, I'm a person that teaches from the book. Your book is essential. You don't have to ask me, do I have to read the book to be successful in this class? Yes. If you do not read the book in this class, you will not be successful. So it's those types of things. And that may not be the same, right, for every discipline and every course. So you have your own individual tools that you can introduce to students. But there is definitely one that I have found to be a common denominator, right? So here we go. I would like for everyone that is listening to this presentation right now, I would like for you to tell me what goes in that blank right there. Okay. Oh, I can't wait to do this in person, right? So I'm sure if I was in person with you, I would hear things like A, right? O, right? U, okay? So then I would say, what about Stillman College? What about the color orange? What about Dr. Gray? What about a piece of cardboard? How do you know what goes in that blank? This is the first time this is presented to you. You have no clue. And this is how students are when they, they first start to learn information that they're not very familiar with, or that they don't have any idea even how to start trying to figure out what it is. So I use this little simple slide on the first day to demonstrate the importance of coming to lecture. Okay. Whew, I have to just kind of take a second, because students that have taken me for classes, one of the things that they say they have remembered from the very first day is that you do not want to miss Dr. Gray's classes. You don't want to miss it, because there's going to always be something in lecture that is of the greatest importance. And I'm not just talking about giving a pop quiz or something like that. I'm talking about the value of being in front of the source of the information. When you're in the presence of the source, then you're getting that information firsthand. You're there for all of the examples or the demonstrations and the opportunity to ask questions. There is nothing more valuable than being in the presence of the source, because I'm the source. And I say that the Xerox copier goes in that blank. Even though the obvious may be the letter A or the letter U, you have to be in the presence of the source. And that accounts for online as well. There are ways to structure that instruction that you're giving, that there is an accountability for checking in on Canvas and, soliciting virtual office hours and doing the practice problems and listening to the virtual announcements and tutorials. So there is always a way to stress the importance of that student at some point engaging with the material in the presence of the professor. All right, so I have this slide here just to kind of remind students that, a lot of times, especially for freshmen, they're coming into a new situation. They're used to a lot of hand holding, and not every person or not every professor has laid out study guides for the information that the students will be entertaining for the semester. That's kind of been phased out or has been phasing out, because we want students to be able to become accountable learners and to learn how to be expert learners. And that doesn't occur when there is constant hand-holding. For most courses, if not a hardcore textbook like you see here, there are other materials to substitute that students need to entertain, read, ask questions about, formulate questions, go to study groups for, go to office hours for, so that they can get a complete understanding of the material. So a lot of times when students will ask me, well, Dr. Gray, do I have a study guide for this course? And I'll say, yeah, you do. Here they are, right? So your book, your lecture notes, your PowerPoints, online supplemental material, all of that. And let's do something magical with it. You come up with your own study guide. Let's do that. You create your own study guide. Now there's value in that. So there are ways and there are things that we can kind of talk about with students on that first day to kind of, once again, get them in the right mindset, set the tone for that course, let them know that, hey, this is not an easy course, but it's definitely doable, but there are some efforts that must be attained and demonstrated on your end. Another tool that can be used on that first day is to just kind of get over to students that, sometimes you need to start conversations, you need to start your reading of material on what you already know. This is a big deal, because most times when we do give study sessions or we do give the opportunity to interact with students where they need help, we start that on a note of, okay, tell me what you don't know. What do you need help with? What is it that you don't know? What is it that you got wrong? But something that is extremely powerful is starting those conversations and those interactions with something positive, like, what do you know about this material? And a lot of times that kind of, throws students back a second, because I came prepared to tell you what I don't know. I didn't really come prepared to tell you what I do know. But the power of starting and concentrating on what you do know is that we start off on a positive note. And we build from that. And they learn from that. And they start accumulating knowledge that is retained. So these are just some things, as I said once before, that can actually be introduced to students on that first day, right? Some methods and concepts that they can start on the very first day. Another powerful tool is, of course, your individual syllabi, okay, for your courses. We want to stress to students how important it is to just not have a printed copy of the syllabus, right? Or to go on Canvas and just kind of skim through it. That is a very powerful tool for that course. I tell students all the time, this is like your own little personal cheat sheet, right? It tells you, You don't have to guess what we're going to talk about when you come to class. It tells you what those concepts are for the week. It tells you on what day those are going to be presented. It shows you your assessments, your exams, your quizzes, right? Your surveys. And it tells you when those things are due on that course calendar. That's usually part of that syllabus. So stressing the importance of the syllabus on the first day is super duper important. Letting students know that this is something that you need to look at on a daily basis sometimes, right? But at least 2 or 3 times a week to make sure that you are on track with those assessment deadlines and dates. Now, this, as I said before, looking at that syllabus gives you an idea of all those things that are going to be coming up, how many exams do I have in this class? How many quizzes? Okay, how often are my assignments due? Do we have homework for this class? Yada, yada, yada. So paying a little bit of attention to the syllabus on the first day as far as an actual document is important as well. Now, this is what I'm the most excited about, and this is what the workshop on metacognition will start to focus on very quickly, is encouraging students to make a plan for your course. It's amazing when you teach students how to make a plan or even mention the concept of making a plan, you see their anxiety level go down like this. It's the same for us. We always feel better when we have a plan for something versus when we don't have a plan. So that's one of these tools. It's kind of like a mind tool as well as a physical tool, because it gives the students the opportunity, first of all, to kind of look at everything on a big scale and then figure out, according to lots of variables that we will discuss, how to kind of digest those in small increments so that we all get to the same end, which is that assessment, right? So I cannot wait to go through this workshop with you at a later date that deals with not only metacognition, but also a pedagogical strategy that I developed several years ago, actually, while as my first assistant professorship here at Stillman College, and I have used it everywhere and actually all over the world. So I can't wait to talk about that. It's called Grandma's Recipe for Accountable Learning and Time Management. Funny name, but there's a story, and we'll talk about it later. But until you get to that workshop, I am sure each of you can talk to your students about a potential plan of action, right, to be successful in your course. And this is next, I think this is probably next to the last slide for this presentation, but I didn't want everyone to kind of forget about all those things that we talked about during the workshop last week, and how we kind of solidified that these things are, very important. Some are institutional mandates from the provost office, and some are some things that we kind of found out about that we didn't even knew existed, that going forward, we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to engage in. And so the first one has to do with this whole business of students using the Canvas app, right, on a cell phone versus, or a tablet other than an iPad, versus a desktop or a laptop. So the Canvas app has lots of limitations. And one of those limitations is if they go onto the app and they're looking through and scrolling through the information, that is not logged in the Canvas system that we see, right? So when we go online, it doesn't look like the students have engaged on the platform at all. So part of our syllabi should include this little bit about, hey, the Canvas app is fine if you're just simply, using it as a scroll through quick view. But if you are especially in an online course and you're supposed to be doing an engagement assignment, or you're supposed to be, engaged on Canvas, that is not noted if it is on a cell phone or a tablet other than an iPad. So in order to retrieve your attendance points, you need to make sure that you are on the right piece of equipment to do that. And that would be either a desktop or a laptop. And, you can come up with verbiage for that to go onto your syllabus at a later date very soon. I can actually send out some example verbiage if you would like, but there needs to be something on there because attendance is a really big deal for our campus and the uses of that attendance. So if something this simple can be, can cause what do you call it, inaccuracies, right? Especially for an online course, we want to make sure that students are aware that I understand that, your phone is what you have. That's what you have the most access to. But when it comes to your attendance, you're going to need to make sure that at least once a week, you are using the specified pieces of equipment to get that credit. So it's as simple as putting it on the syllabus and addressing that, right? Setting the tone on that first day. For online faculty, remembering that engagement assignment at the beginning of the semester within those first 2 to 3 days is going to be crucial for you to actually enter those grades from midterm 1 grading. Remember the choices of either N or NH, no other choices. And we've gone through the explanation for that. And if anyone needs a refresher, I sent out the recorded version of those of that workshop as well as the slide deck. So you can look back at that to see what those standards are. But the only 2 options are going to be H for here and NH for not here. But for online courses, that engagement assignment must be in place before the students actually start the course. So that means today at the least, right? And making sure that students understand how important it is to do this assignment, giving those repetitive announcements over and over again on Canvas so that they see them popping up and they know that this is crucial. And in the classroom, of course, you'll be able to see the students when they come in and whether they're there or not. August 22nd, as of right now, unless this changes through the provost office or the institution, I should say, August 22nd is the date by which this information has to be given or actually put into self-service that is in colleague. Also, in order for students to actually receive communication from your course in the tune of notifications, so say if you put up an announcement, in order for them to get a notification from the announcement as well as from the email, they will have to turn on their notifications. Pretty soon, I will be sending out a little bit of a walkthrough document that you could actually put on Canvas for your students or give out to them during the first day of class to remind them to turn on those Canvas notifications and also as to how they do it. I have a walkthrough document for you. So I got you on that, right? And also any calendar alerts that you put in on Canvas, when they click this on button, it will allow them to get those notifications. Stress to students that if you choose not to turn those notifications on, you're going to be missing pertinent information about the course. And at that point, whatever it is that you miss or you don't get a chance to participate in, that is on you, because I'm telling you that you need to turn on those alerts today. So those are types of communications we can actually give to students. When we talked last week, we talked about a few things that we probably want to disable, right? So that students do not have the option to view. One are the grade distribution graphs. So we want to remember how to disable that. All that information is in the workshop information that I sent last week. Disabling students' ability to comment on announcements was also in that workshop, and disabling the people tab so that students don't have privy to other students' information like their email address, their pictures that are attached to their names, and their information about when they started a course and that type of thing. So just please adhere to those that we discussed previously. And with that, I am wishing that each and every one of you have the most amazing and powerful semester that you could possibly have. Know that I am here to help you in any capacity that I can. The Center for Teaching and Learning is here to help you in each and every capacity that it can. But I need you to reach out to me and let me know what you need. And until you do, I'm going to be supplying and sending things your way. We're going to have some really amazing workshops that are coming up, and I will communicate that to you via the provost's office. So have an amazing first day tomorrow, and just cannot wait to hear all of the wonderful interactions that will occur between you and your students. I will see you very soon.